My creative journey started very early. In fact, my mother said that when I was an infant, she would put me across her lap and pat me on the back, and I'd sing myself to sleep. She said, "You've been singing your whole life," and I'm not sure that's not true, because I remember very, very young singing with my grandmother. She would be in her kitchen mopping, and she'd sing Christian music, and I would just start singing with her as I learned the words and the music to what she was singing. She was a great singer. So was my mother. But we grew up, our family, I was born in Memphis, but they moved back here when I was 2. And we grew up over on Moss Hill Drive. There were only about 9 houses in one little row. And we used to play with all the kids there in the neighborhood, ride our bikes, and we would create paths in the weeds that we would talk about. They were mimicking things that we saw on Tarzan and that sort of stuff. So it was always some sort of creative outlet. We made mistakes too. We collected all the crawdads but put them all in a one wagon. And the giant one killed all the others because we didn't know they were territorial. We just thought, oh, we're collecting these. And that was a mistake. We made lots of those. The first time I remember singing anything was when I was 5 at First Baptist Church kindergarten. We were having a Christmas program. And for a 5-year-old, First Baptist Church was huge. And so I remember I was wearing one of those little half robes that children wear. But I told Miss Corey Mae Bennett, she's the one who, that's Betty Lou Barkley and Bev Kitchen's mom. She and Miss Hazel McGee, who they were wonderful leaders, and also Miss Ada Hendricks. They were our 3 leaders. But they assigned me "Oh Christmas Tree" as a solo at 5. That night I informed Miss Bennett that I was not going to sing. And she said, "Oh, Mark, you've got to sing, you've got a solo." I said, "Well, if my parents are here, if my mom and daddy, if I see them, then I'll do it." My father told me that I walked out and they played the introduction of the song like 3 times. And I was staring around the whole lot, and then I saw them in the balcony. And he said, "All you did is go," and just start singing. And so it was just from there, I mean, we were constantly doing plays during school over at Mattie Thompson School. With my friends from school, we did plays there, and they would assign us parts, and I seemed to always end up with a part. Had a very active imagination, and I loved music. It was always just part of life. When I went through school, as soon as I could play an instrument, I started playing the trumpet. And I played trumpet all the way through school and to college. It was actually scholarship money kind of thing, but I loved doing it. And my first band director was Phil Nanny. He was a very, very young man, and he and Sylvia came here my freshman year of high school. He was my band director, and so I've known Phil my whole life too. They weren't that much older than us anyway, and so when the Nannies came here, of course, they're very theatrical people. And then I married my wife, who is very theatrical, and we had sons who are all theatrical. So we've done stuff here. We've done plays, musicals. I mean, it's incredible how much, though, the Nanny family and our family were tied together. I sang all the time with Sylvia. We sang duets all the time, and now, and up till recently when we took a small church, I was singing in choir with Mary Beth and Philip. So and Philip grew up with our kids, the same age as our kids. I know growing up, when we only had the high school musical, but it was a senior play, a senior musical. So all the seniors were the lead parts. So I was always in the orchestra until my senior year, and then we did Carousel, and I did the lead in that one. So once again, always doing creative things. It was just the way we were. And then in college, I went to Northeast, and we did a musical there, and it was Little Abner, and back then I was a little slightly better built to be Little Abner than I am today. But it was fun. We had a great cast of folks that even today are our dear friends. And then did some stuff at Ole Miss as well, sang in the concert singers over there. And then, we just continue to do things when we got here. We've done things as varied as hee-haw shows, which are goofy, but also got some incredible musicians, because New Albany is blessed with some of the best musicians a small town has ever seen. And I mean, I've seen a lot of places. It's as good as anywhere, these folks. And they're not classically musicians, because some musicians are difficult to deal with. These are great talents who are also easy to get along with, which is just incredible. I can't brag on them enough, the folks in New Albany and around here. But I went through school doing those things, and then when we came back to New Albany with our sons when they were very little, we started doing things at the theater here. And then, of course, we were doing things, the nannies would do Broadway music, and we'd be in all those. And which were always fun and always varied. And then we did straight up plays, like, I like comedy better than I like drama, because I played Otto Frank, and every night my family died, and every night I had to do a soliloquy about that, and it was devastating. So every night I was emotionally just devastated. So I prefer comedy. I'd rather laugh any day, make other people laugh any day. But our sons, thankfully, also got that bug, and our son Stephen, I played Scrooge one year at Theater Memphis for their big Christmas Carol. Well, now Stephen's done it for about the last 4 years, and I think he's going to do it again this year. And we've done plays at Theater Memphis, several of those, but also here, and even this most recent Tarzan. I had the biggest time playing Allie Hodges' father, which is ridiculous because I'm way too old, but playing her father and being in a musical with all those folks again. We have very talented people all around this county, and it is unreal to me still how much talent we have. And we've got facilities that most towns our size don't have, and to have that kind of support, have that kind of ability, and that kind of resource available, I think it's just been a blessing, an incredible blessing. And then we also have great church music too, so it's kind of been all that. My sweet wife is an incredibly talented actress. I mean, she just is. And she says she doesn't sing, but she's a liar. And she is very talented every way you can be. So it's been a blast. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I hope that one day, even if I live to be 90, I wouldn't mind doing another show. As long as I have the energy to do it, I'll do it. But I love creativity. I love creative people. I love those odd thoughts people have that are creative. And that's another thing my father would tell me. Son, we'd be riding in the car and you were little, and you'd say, look at that bird. And you'd have to stare. There was a tiny bird way in the sky. But I was paying attention to that thing that other people didn't see. And so it made it a lot easier to, build that fourth wall and not see the audience, but just let them witness what you're doing on stage. It made it easy. Some people call it schizophrenic, but I call it creative. And I don't know, there might be a fine line between those things too. But yeah, and I'm glad our kids also got it. It was fun to watch them blossom and sing and dance and do their thing. And I think my grandkids all have it too. So it's really a blast to watch. So that's my story. I mean, and it's not finished yet.
As you were talking about working with your children and the nannies and just the multi-generations working together, you can't do that with baseball.
No. Well, all the kids I grew up with playing baseball with every summer, because we did that too. I mean, my dad was an incredible coach and an incredible player, so he taught us well, and I loved baseball. But there was only so many years they were going to play baseball. And that's what I've tried to tell my grandchildren. You can play these sports, and it's awesome. Do it. I mean, do it. But learn to play piano, because you know what? When you can no longer kick a soccer ball around the field, you'll be able to play the piano. I've seen ladies who can't remember their family, who can sit down at a piano in a nursing home and play like a maestro, like a virtuoso. I've witnessed it, and I've tried to tell them it doesn't leave you. In fact, you'd have to decide to stop doing it. And honestly, once you've done it, I don't think you can just abandon it. It's not something you give way to. So yeah, I think it's cool generationally to watch it happen. I think it's cool to watch Gracie, my granddaughter, Ben's daughter, and Ben also were in Christmas Carol at Theater Memphis this year. So it was Stephen playing Scrooge, Ben playing several different parts, and then Gracie was playing Martha, one of the Cratchit children. And so we saw all the family, watching these family members and they killed it. I mean, it wasn't just jealousy. I mean, it wasn't personal pride. They really killed it. They did a great job, and I was so proud.
But you could have been there with them too. It could have been 3 generations easily.
I could have, but like I said, there's an energy level that's required. And I have it for brief periods of time, but I don't, carrying a show. Again, when I did, and plus at Theater Memphis, doing a Christmas Carol goes from right after Thanksgiving all the way through to Christmas Eve. So you give up all your holiday. You are just rehearsing and doing performances all the time, and it's hard. So it takes a lot of energy and a lot of commitment, and I think Gracie's trying to talk Kathy into doing that this year. Kathy might be swayed to do it. So, but generationally, it's really cool to watch, to see it happening. Yeah.
You could do it here where you didn't have to drive so far. Just do 2 shows instead of 40 or however many they put on.
Right, and that's one of the things that I think will happen, will come. It's just trying to find the footing here in New Orleans, because like I said, we got the facilities, we got the talented people, and we need the direction and that sort of thing. But I think I've got people who can do it. It's just they don't always have the time to commit to it. And so if we were to boil it down to 2 relatively big shows a year, I think we could pack out weekends. And honestly, we have the people, we have the ability. It's not and even those little things we've done, like murder mystery theater things that are funny and people can laugh and they get to guess who the murderer is and have dinner. You don't get that stuff in a town the size of New Orleans. You get that in Atlanta, because we went to Atlanta to see one of those, and it was that kind of inspired. Kathy was like, we got to do this. And I called and talked to somebody in England, and she was so gracious, and she sent us these scripts. We would buy a script from her, and then we would you modify it to fit, because some of their humor in Britain, people over here would just go, I don't get it. So we would have to modify certain things in the script, but to fit here. But we could do that, and it was even those things are a lot of fun, and offer people an opportunity they would not have any other way. I just enjoy it. It's fun. Some people don't think it's fun. Some people think it's scary. Dealing with issues during a day is really ad-lib. So if you've learned ad-lib, you've learned to deal with stuff you weren't prepared to do. And I've never really thought about it that way, but now that you said it, it strikes me that, that's what dealing with problems that just pop up really is. It's an opportunity to ad-lib. Take what you know, apply to the circumstance in front of you, and then move forward with it. And that's kind of what you do on stage or in one of those dinner theaters where the most probative questions were asked by children. They will catch you in a fabrication. When you're trying to ad lib and cover, they will catch you. And so it's, I don't know, I think that helps me in my day-to-day life because I've learned how to respond and not react. Because that's the other thing. In ad lib, you don't react. You simply stop, consider, and respond. And you know, that's a good policy anybody should go by. Don't just react. Stop, consider, and respond. And so yeah, I think, thanks for asking that. I never really thought of that.
It would probably help all of us in our day-to-day life.
It can. Well, honestly, that's scriptural. Be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. I mean, it's kind of, it all fits. It all fits. I don't think the Lord just wanted to say ad lib, but he was saying be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger.
Think about it.
Yeah, think first. Think first. The only thing I've not ever gotten to do that I would love to do is the lead in Fiddler on the Roof. That one is one that's eluded me so far. I was going to do it at Theater Memphis, but this guy showed up who won the lead. And I was going to end up being the second guy. And we would have sung duets together, but I wanted to be able to be the lead in Fiddler on the Roof. Because If I Were a Rich Man, you know, that's a great song. And it's a great show. But, you know, if I don't get to do that, it's okay. I liked all of them for different reasons. You know, every one of them had its appeal. Being Scrooge, I'd always wanted to be Scrooge. So being Scrooge here for a production of Christmas Carol, and then being Scrooge at Theater Memphis for a production of Christmas Carol, that was kind of living out one of my dreams. Because I'd always wanted to do it. I'd always thought, I think I'd like that. And it really was fun. Now, it got intense and then it got really tiring. Because by the time you get close to Christmas Eve, you kind of want it to be Christmas and you not being Scrooge anymore. I love the conversion of Scrooge. I love the angry, stingy, grasping Scrooge changing into the generous, giving Scrooge. That was always a fun conversion to have. And so that was probably one of my favorite roles. I also enjoyed at Theater Memphis doing Old Man Carnes in Oklahoma. It's not a lead role, but he's got some great lines. And you get to carry a gun on stage. So that was fun. There's been a lot of things though that I've enjoyed doing. Each one had its moments and its appeal. Probably musically, the greatest thing I ever got to do was sing with concert singers in Europe. And that was intense. And it's the greatest moments musically that I've probably had in my life.
What was that?
Concert singers is some of the best singers that you've ever heard all together. And there's a thing called overtones that can happen when you're singing 6 notes, but you can hear 2 or 3 more that are not being sung. They just are produced by the purity of the harmonies. And we sang in a church in France that was built in 1060. And we sang in the front, but it had those giant buttresses and stuff across the top. It was a cathedral. We would finish a song and we would hear ourselves finish the song. Because it would travel to the back and come all the way back to us. So when we finished, the director would stand there and we would hear ourselves finish. I get chills thinking about it. It was one of those incredible experiences. You know, that's the kind of stuff that sticks, that you don't forget. So, and I've got recordings of it, but it's not the same. Recordings are not the same. It's got to be done live. And that's the other thing I think that folks don't understand. Some folks don't love live theater, don't love live musicals, but there's something you lose when it's not live. You can watch it on the video, but that's just That's not the fourth dimension of it. And because audience don't understand, sometimes they participate. Because when you're giving energy and they give it back, that just makes you go again, go even more. And I grew up watching things too, like the Carol Burnett Show and Red Skelton, and my favorite on Carol Burnett was Tim Conway and Harvey Korman. So you can see, all I wanted to do was laugh all the time. But their stuff they would do, and it was mostly ad-lib. Tim Conway made stuff up just to make Harvey Korman laugh. See, now that's fun to me. That kind of stuff, that's appealing to me. That's my gig. I love that. But yeah, those are, I had several pinnacle type moments. Some musically, some I like playing the trumpet. The biggest time was when our little band, Ken Lewis was the director when I was a senior. He took us to a big competition over in, I think it was Gadsden, Alabama. And there were bands from all over. Some had 300 members, and then Cook County High School, 300 something members. We won the overall champion. But it's because Phil was a showman, and Mr. Lewis made the sound happen. So you put all that together. We kind of had the perfect storm. We had James Townsend was my elementary band director. He could teach the elementary parts, the rudiments, perfectly. Then I got Phil, and he did the show. And then got Ken, and he did the sound. You put all that together, you win championships. And we won one. Our little band from this little town won the whole thing. That was cool. See, so playing an instrument, there's a pinnacle moment. Singing, hearing yourself finish in that kind of choral group. Acting, doing the last show of being Scrooge, pouring all the energy you got left into that last show. Those things are pinnacle type moments in your life. There have been plenty of them. I've had a good run. I really have. That's been good. It's so great to see, still work with Phil, still work with Philip and Mary Beth, and them work with our kids. Because when we did Tarzan, Ben was this wild ape creature that I was rolling backstage watching him do his thing and thinking, that's just Ben being Ben in front of everybody in a monkey costume. But the director was Mary Beth, one of the directors, and the other director was Clint Reed, and then the other person that was on stage was Philip Nanny. So we're all there together, working, doing the thing. And then you got great kids like, look, I got to fake like I was Allie Hodges' dad. I told her father, I'm just going to think, what would Scott do when I'm trying to be her dad on stage? But you got this group of folks that have so much ability that they could do these things somewhere else, bigger. If that was their goal, they could go do bigger things in bigger places. They'd rather do big things here. And that I like too. Our little town. And we're kind of getting a reputation for being good at that stuff. I don't know if you know that, but we kind of are.
I've heard.
Yes, I have too. I've had people say.
Word on the street.
Word on the street. I mean, the CEO and his wife of Sanctuary, where I work, they came to one of the shows, and it was a middle school musical. And he could not stop talking about how great they were. He said, I was watching Broadway, and I said, and those are middle schoolers. And when you've got folks working with you, middle schoolers, and your elementary school kids, growing them up in it, it's really cool to watch these kids. And we got some in the high school level. They got it. I don't know what they may decide to go be doctors and engineers and professors somewhere, but some of them have got it enough to go do. I mean, they could do Broadway type stuff. They could do it if they choose, and that's also cool. No doors are closed. You just kind of go, if I want to do that, I'll pursue that. So, it's cool.
Yeah. speaking to the future.
Yeah. Well, it's in the past, propels us to it. Well, Phil and I are buds, and see, that's weird too. He was my band director, and now we're buds.
Yeah.
But
they were really young.
It's not. Yes, he was not that much older than us.
Yeah.
Maybe 10, 15 years, but that's not. That could be a brother, not a dad. And so, he showed me images when Mary Beth was going to be born. So for me, Mary Beth was a baby. Philip was a little boy with my little boys. But now, they're grown-ups doing their thing, and their kids are talented and doing this stuff. And our grandkids are talented and singing along with them. It's just this fun. And it's not those two families alone. What I'm saying is it's just fun to see generation after generation just doing the stuff. All these kids that are growing up in doing this stuff. Because a lot of people back in my day, they didn't want to be in the senior musical. They had to do it because Miss Brassfield made them. And now, they kind of look forward to it. And some of them say, all I want to do is sets. But sets matter. All I want to help with is sound or with makeup. Makeup matters. So I think it's cool. And also the fact that our kids, our school gets nominated with places that are like Jonesboro Performing Arts High School. That's all they do. In a much, much bigger town, all they do is performing arts. And our little town goes up there, and our little town does it seasonally and wins. Beats them at their own. They proclaim themselves to be fine art school. I know it's got to be offensive to them that they lose to a place like, wait, that's a public high school?
Yeah.
But yeah, when you
our
guys
kids also play volleyball and basketball and football
and win those things and win those things and win those things.
They're carrying other sports and teams.
Yeah, they're not just exclusively focused
they're
on
not
one.
just drama kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why that's so cool too, is they can get up there, do their thing, and those others, the professionals who are judging go, wow, that's talent, that's ability. I like it. I'm proud of our little place. That's why I love being on the school board, because we can try to help where we can. I'm always going to try to help where we can. I support the sport. I support sports folks too. I really do. I think it's exciting that we have a winning football team and that we have winning soccer teams, and our tennis team seems to own the state tennis championships and things like that. Baseball, they're doing well. I'm proud of every one of them. I just want all of them to have their thing they can go do. Every one of them. So, unfortunately, we don't have infinity dollars to do it with. But we
have a good community that supports.
We do.
And fills in the gaps, I believe.
I agree with you. 100%.
As much as they can.
I agree with you. Even those that don't understand the fine arts, support it anyway.
Yeah.
Which I think is awesome. There's nobody saying, I don't like that, so I'm not going to help. They just do it.